Now you might be thinking to yourself, Daidarius, are you having a bad hair day? No. Hello everyone, this is my name is Daidarius, and welcome to the review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That is a long ass title. So The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the second entry into the MCU Phase 4. It is a fucking short series. It only consists of 6 episodes. So I'm gonna get back to that, but yeah, it is a short series. So the series begins with that Sam is giving up the Captain America shield, which, to begin with, sting a bit, because as at the end of Endgame, Old Cap is handing Sam the shield, which is just the figurative, ropes or the torch of being Captain America to Sam, and says, this is your identity now, not identity. This is your job now. This is who you are going to become. You're going to become the new Captain America and protect the world. Go do it. And Sam is just like, yeah, no, and just gives it away. So it stings a bit. But again, I understand. It's, big shoes to fill. Meanwhile, Bucky is in therapy. He has been pardoned of all of his bad actions as the Winter Soldier because of what he has done in Infinity War and more specifically in Endgame. So he has been pardoned and now is dealing with a lot of nightmares. Makes sense. In the meantime, we have this terrorist group led by Carly, who is angry at the world of how they handled the blip, or as I like to call it, the snap, when people got snapped back into reality. So after the world population had to move on after the snap, they had this 5 years, and then suddenly 50% of all life came back, and now you have these people where society have moved on. You need to put them back into society. So they have been prioritized above the existing population. It kind of sucks, but this group is angry with that, and they are trying to change how that is handled. That's best I can put it. And to tie it all up, we also have John, who at the end of the first episode becomes the new Captain America. And every one of the audience is just like, no, he's the fake Cap. John is the fake. I mean, Sam is kind of the fake Cap, but he has the potential to be good. Whereas John, fuck that guy. He's the fake Cap. And that is basically the series summary. Again, it is 6 episodes. They are roughly an hour long each. And the whole thing is about Sam trying to get to the terms of being Captain America. Bucky actually, moving on from his hard past, this terrorist group, and then John Walker as the new Cap, how he's gonna try to deal with it. That's the whole thing summed up, basically. So what did I like about this series? Okay, first of all, the opening action sequence as well as the final action sequence were actually quite well done. Again, considering this is a series, there's a lot of impressive CGI in here. That and the relationship between Sam and Bucky is phenomenal. We saw some of it in Civil War, but here it is amped up because now it's these two. There's focus on them, and also how their relationship has kind of been torn after Sam gave up the shield, because not only does Sam has a relation to Captain America and that shield, but of course also Bucky. That shield is not just a shield, it represents something related to Cap. So that makes sense. So there's a lot of friction between those two, and I do enjoy their scenes. There's a lot of great development in there. Also, the acting for the most part is fine. I mean, it is not fantastic, but it's also not bad. Everyone does their job fine, which means that it doesn't bring down the series. So that is good. And also the pacing for the most part is okay in this series. But all in all, it is a safe series. There's not much to it, and in the end you get kind of a satisfying conclusion to it. But I'm not gonna spoil the series per se, but I am gonna touch on aspects without... Can I do it? Maybe. Okay, moving on. But all in all, the characters are fine. Some characters are taken in an interesting way, but it does make sense once you think about the timeline, especially since Civil War. You had Civil War, then 2 years went by, then you had Infinity War, then 5 years went by, then you had Endgame, and now Phase 4 of this MCU. So 7 years since Civil War. A lot of things can happen in 7 years, okay? So that makes sense. So Characters has been taken in a new, interesting, or at least drastic direction, but considering 7 years time period, it does make sense for some of it. Now, other action sequences could have been done better. There's a lot of shaky cam in here, and I don't know if they're trying to emulate kind of the action style from Winter Soldier, which also had a lot of shaky cam, especially in the highway fight scene. It kind of ruined some of the choreography in there because it was really well done and really well performed, but it was efficient in conveying what it's trying to tell, whereas in here it often chops up the action sequence and obstructs it so much that you're not really sure what's going on, and the show tries to convince you that Sam and Bucky are doing some awesome shit, but you can't always see it. However, there's also some new characters in here which I think brought some interesting things and ideas to the table, especially this one older guy. I'm not going to spoil who it is or what their impact on the story is, but I do appreciate the different angle of this whole conversation this show tries to do. I appreciate when there is another opinion brought to the table that can challenge our main heroes. That's a good thing because it makes it more digestible when you're talking about a political topic, which this show leans on a bit. So okay, I'm just gonna go into it right away because fucking hell. So this show's final episode is okay. It has some satisfying scenes. It has some satisfying resolutions for sure. I mean, fine, but it is also trying to lecture you in what I would call bullshit. And I mean, okay, so one of the things that's brought up in this show is racism, and again, fine, if you handle it well, it can fit into a superhero story as long as you're not trying to lecture the audience of that the big white man is a villain, he is a bad guy, and you need to understand that and keep trying to lecture you on that, because that is distasteful and it doesn't really help the conversation. So there is a good way to do it and the bad way to do it, and they kind of lead into the bad way, but not completely. But anyway, there is a speech at the end of this of the series done by Sam, and to begin with, it makes its point fine. It makes its point come across, and you're going, okay, it's kind of a bit on the nose, but I see what you're getting at. And then, after I've made the point, it just keep fucking going and going and going, and kind of derails itself of what it was trying to do, and makes him just whiny and hypocritical and kind of ruins it. And one of the points he brings up is that the terrorist shouldn't be labeled a terrorist because then they just become the label. Okay, it can make sense if you do that, but only if the terrorists has been depicted as not being harmful towards innocent people, have not threatened or killed or injured innocent people willingly. But that's not the case in here, because they are killing innocent people, they are wreaking destruction and putting misery upon innocent people that has nothing to do with their agenda. So they are terrorists, but the show tries to do the kind of the same thing as WandaVision did with Wanda, and trying to kind of undermine what had just happened and show them as a troubled figure who has gone through a lot of pain, which again, sure, but it doesn't justify the actions. And it's the same in here. And I know I'm going a bit too much into this, but there's a lot of those things in this series where they're setting up something and then they kind of ignore it later on to tell you a political message that doesn't really resonate with you, especially because of what just came before. That is some of my issues in here is... I mean, again, first of all, I'm not seeing superhero content to be lectured about stuff. It's okay to show awareness of something and some of these topical issues, for sure, of course, but again, it depends on how you handle the subject. But when you're handling a subject like you're telling the audience, look how wrong you are, it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. One of my favorite movies that has some racial problems in it is Green Book, but the way they handled in there was more efficient, since they made you emphasize and actually relate to the main characters, and when some injustice happened towards those, you felt it and felt angry for them, and again, it then showed you in a more organic way, racial issues. Whereas in here, it's just lecturing upon lecturing, which kind of does the opposite of what it wants. Now, if I'm just going to back up a bit, because this review has been kind of more just like my issues with how it's handling its message. If you just put that issue to the side, and again, it was not because I'm going to stand here and be political and all that. I don't plan on doing that on my channel at all. It's just when it's presented to me, I want it to be presented correctly. I can take in other people's opinions. Of course I can. But only when it is handled professionally and with respect, and it's not in here. But besides that, this whole fucking series accomplishes almost nothing. Actually, it accomplishes dog shit. I am confident when we get to actually seeing movies in the MCU and they bring up Bucky and Sam, you don't have to actually watch this show to understand where they are, because it's pretty much how we left them at Endgame. And that kind of annoys me. Also, this whole show could have just been a movie. It would actually have made sense to be a movie and tackle all the issues, especially with Sam and Bucky in here, and the character progression. Maybe just ditch the whole terrorist group thing, because I didn't give two fucks about the terrorists in here. They were uninteresting. They tried to make them not relatable, but at least sympathetic, but they undermine it at every turn they can. So they were just boring. They were just waste of time. So if you cut those out, then maybe just focus on the storyline with John Walker instead, you will have an interesting, different kind of MCU movie that will actually work, and then try to integrate the racial stuff that you did, but, actually do it justice and not just shitting all over it. That would probably have worked better. Now, I'm not saying this show is a waste of time. I mean, it is fine. It is only 6 hours long, but again, just with WandaVision, you're kind of questioning what was the point. And honestly, I can't say what the point was. So I'm going to wrap this up quickly. So you get some interesting action sequences. You get some characters or different take on characters considering the 7-year time period that has happened since then. You get some great friction between Sam and Bucky, but the villain in here is forgettable. The message and I think the woke is what internet calls now, is too much on your nose and kind of ruins and undermines the story and message that this series tried to tell you. It feels like it accomplishes absolutely nothing. The state of the characters at the end of Endgame and at the end of this show is kind of the same, which means that this whole show is kind of pointless. However, you do have some interesting points besides the political part. There is some interesting points brought up about Sam not being a super soldier. Will he then be able to be a Captain America? And stuff like that. So, but there's a lot of things in here, but there's also a lot of obstacles in here that's just resolved way too quickly, especially fucking Bucky's storyline. What happened to that? Why did we... Anywho, I'm gonna wrap it up. So, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You should catch it on Netflix. May experience, but then again, you can't watch it on Netflix. Maybe I should change it to you can catch it on a streaming service. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it from that on. So let's try again. You should catch it on a streaming service. May experience. Yeah, that works fine. That works fine. But I won't say it is a waste of time, because I did find some entertainment in here. But besides that, it doesn't have that much to offer. And after I saw the MCU Phase 4 trailer, I don't have high hopes for MCU Phase 4, really, because besides Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't really care at all, which sucks. But then again, Infinity Saga to me is the MCU as of now. But let's see if something better comes up. Hopefully, Loki is going to be better, but after WandaVision and this... I'm not sure. So, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you think that my issues with it are justified? Do you share them, or are you more on the opposite side? I'm interested to hear your opinion, and also if you actually liked and enjoyed this show. So, whatever you think, comment below and me your thoughts. And so, until see you next video, remember to stay awesome. See ya.